now is the time. Oh, is that a pretty girl? Hi. I just want to boop you right where you're at. Okay, well, good morning all. My name is Sherry and this is Eldritchy Stitchy. This is my first Flosstube video. I'm super excited and super out of my depth. I decided to give YouTube, primarily Flosstube, a try. I was finishing my most recent project and I had been looking for some really nice background noise and I discovered Flosstube completely on a lark. I mostly found it was Michelle Bindi Stitchy, and that kind of led me into a bunch of other different Flosstubers, and I fell in love with just getting to know these people's personality, these lovely women and these wonderful gentlemen, and it was such a delight to hear these people and really be able to just kind of cross stitch with them sometimes. And I had the thought, you know, I think I can do this too. Oh, maybe there's someone who'd like to hear me ramble while we cross stitch together. Maybe not, that's okay too. A little bit about me. I'm from Northwest Florida. I live in Northwest Florida. Beautiful, beautiful Emerald Coast is actually not too far from where I live. Absolutely like a wonderful 5-minute drive. I love it. Just the great white sandy beaches. I work as a clinical mental health counselor, primarily working with anxiety disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders, a lot of PTSD, and high control relationships are the fascination of mine. I really enjoy learning about them. That and high control groups, also very fascinating to me. I've been practicing for about 5 or 6 years now. Really wonderful job. I love it so much. I'm so humbled by the people I work with, and they're such a delight to work with too. They're great people. If periodically throughout the video you kind of catch my eyes going downward, reason being is I'm using my Canon and I have found that it has a tendency to cut out sometimes randomly, and I haven't quite figured out why yet. And so I'm trying to keep my eye on just the capture and just making sure that it's still recording and doesn't just poop out on me. So for fun, I enjoy cross stitching. I like bicycling and just mostly kind of old people stuff sometimes. A lot of old records, old music, 1940s, 1920s, things to that general area. I also enjoy barn dancing. Lots of fun when I get to do it. Right now, can't because, you know, end times. So, and then in the background, you can probably see I got my little Lodabug, Lola Montez, so beautiful, shady and a tempered dame. That's her name. I love her. I adopted her actually about, I'm gonna say 2 years ago. We're going on 2 years. She is entranced with the outside. I open the window because our weather has been so gorgeous, and she will just press her nose right up against the screen and just sit there and smell and delight in the outside air. It's beautiful out right now anyway. Probably so beautiful that's why people are doing yard work. It's great. So, but I really enjoy vintage things, which I think is part of what got me interested in cross stitch in the first place. I've always been a lover of vintage items, and my mother introduced me to it years and years ago, and I did a few small little pieces here and there, never really kept any of them. And then I started a very ambitious piece probably 7 years ago. I was still a beginner cross stitcher, a baby really, and I found this piece by Leonardo da Vinci and decided, I think in October was when I found it, and I was like, oh, I can do this by December as a Christmas present for my mother, and I was very wrong.
Hello darkness, my old friend.
Wrong. I was wrong. And 7 years later I finally got it done, and 7 years, it really should not have taken 7 years, but primarily because I just don't think I knew enough about cross-stitching. I didn't realize you can work on different pieces if you want to. Oh, it's so cute. I just want to like a little, oh, we got the boop. Oh, bye. Okay. So I guess I didn't realize, as silly as it is, that you can work on different pieces. And so I never really did until maybe 2 or 3 years ago I started allowing myself to do some other stuff. And so one of the first ones I completed, if I can find a picture, I'll post it somewhere around here. But if not, it was a really cute little cross stitch that I did for a friend of mine from graduate school, and I think I might have come up with it, but I'm not 100% sure. It's very possible I bought the pattern. It was a few years ago, but I definitely know I did the border from one book, and so I think I might have meshed two things together, but it was a bunch of kitty cats, and essentially it was, I think kitties will poop on everything you love, which was so true. And she loves herself a good evil cat. She seeks out the mean cats. She just loves them. She's got a heart for it. So, and then from there, my next completed piece was my big one, which was actually just a week ago maybe. I completed it finally. It's absolutely gorgeous, I think. Gorgeous artwork. It is Madonna and the Yarn Winder by, I believe, Leonardo da Vinci. And again, very ambitious piece, I think, for a beginner cross-stitcher, someone who doesn't have a lot of experience. And but it was a gift from my mother. I can definitely see all the flaws in it, but my mother loved it, and that's the point, I think, is it's probably the thought behind it. Another piece that I've been working on is, oh gosh. Found this in an old cross-stitch magazine and got it online, and it's the Button Vendor. Kind of started it, but not too much yet. I think I'm only up to, I think I've just completed like this little building over here and this little man. And a bit of the catch with the whole thing is it was also, again, because I'm such a baby cross-stitcher, I didn't realize what they meant by this idea of stitching over two. So I was stitching it just regular stitching over one, and it's probably going to be much smaller than it was supposed to be, but that's okay, because I think it'll be much more easy for me to frame, actually. Much easier. Much more easy is not, I think, actual grammar. Apologies. So my next piece from there, my next Madonna actually, will be this gorgeous one. I saw it in a magazine once. I think it was the Catholic Compass. Fell in love with the artwork again. Just gorgeous artwork. Isn't that beautiful? If it'll focus. It probably won't focus. Apologies. And it's Madonna and Child by, I believe it's Marianne Stokes. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry. Again, just, gorgeous. I love it. I love I love the Virgin Mary. I think she's such a badass. I love her. So the stitch with me that I'll be doing today is this magical cat. If I can relocate the shop owner, this is what it's supposed to look like. I'll link her down below. I think it's going to be a really, really fun piece. I'm really enjoying it so far. That will be my stitch with me today that we're trying. And the next big piece I'm also looking at is, because I first found Michelle Bindi Stitchy. If you haven't seen her channel, oh my gosh, go watch her. She's fantastic. I love her. She's working on one called Contessa with a Squid. She calls her Josephine and Humphrey, and I am a lover of H.P. Lovecraft. Not an expert. I don't know all the Eldritch horrors, but I love me a good H.P. Lovecraft. And part of, I think honestly my favorite story has always been the Dunwich Horror. It's just something about it. I can't quite pin. I think the characters are just fascinating, and the family dynamic. Anyway, so really love it. And so she's working on Contessa with a Squid, which just sings to my love of Eldritch horrors. If you haven't seen it, get beautiful. Go see it. So I'll be eventually working on that. I've got the fabric, I've got the scroll that I need. I just need to download the pattern, and but I really want to get a little bit more headway on the piece I'm working on today. And that's basically it. So let's see if we can stitch together. Let's see if I can do this. Go. So anyway, what I'm working on here is a really nice, really fun fantasy cat. It's for one of my best friends. I have like 3 best friends. It's a Southern thing, I think. There's a comedian that I listened to once. I can't remember her name. I'll have to see if I can find her. She has this really great joke about, having best friends, but there's always like your bestest friend, and she's wonderful. My mother introduced me to her. But this is a birthday present for her. We met in high school, our sophomore year. She came in partway through the year, and it was a charter high school. Really wonderful place. I have such positive memories of it. I had been going to the local public high school, and it's a fine school. There's kids locally who love it, and then there's kids locally who hate it, because that's what kids do. And, but I wasn't really fitting in well there. It was very sports oriented at the time, and I was very shy. I had been bullied a lot in middle school, so I was going into my 9th grade with I think really a lot of guard up around me. And so I was just really having a hard time fitting in, and we heard about a local charter school. It was still pretty new, and my parents told me about it, and all you had to do was complete the college entrance exam, and then from there you could go over. And I mean, assuming you were picked, they had like a lottery of sorts. So, and my name got drawn. I was able to go, and it was such a fantastic experience. That place still honestly means the world to me. I feel like that stitch is coming out. So it was such a wonderful experience. We basically did high school classes only throughout our 10th grade year, and then from there we basically segued into just the college classes. We were on a college campus. The kids that went to the high school with me, we were such an eclectic bunch. I was, a little goth kid, but we had, I guess, kids that would be considered preppy, and we had just some nerdy kids, and we had a few potheads, but just such a good group. And I think in general we all got along really well with each other. I mean, there's always some personality differences here and there, but I feel like we were such a tight-knit group, and a handful of us still do stay in touch. Not all of us. I think some have kind of gone off on their own ways, and that's fine, because everyone's at a different place in their life, and some people hold on to those relationships and some don't, because they find new relationships that maybe have a little bit more meaning to them. That's totally fine. But I would say, because we were such a small class, we were quite close. And this girl, she came in midway through the school year. I think we had the first chunk of the school year, and then after Christmas break, I think that was when she came in. I could be wrong. It's a long time ago. And I think she was shy, and she was having a hard time finding people, and that happens. And I didn't really like her, actually, when I first encountered her. I did not like her. Very petty reasons. I thought I was the artist of the school. There was actually a girl at the school who was an infinitely better artist, but she was very, withdrawn, kind of, just by herself. There was maybe 1 or 2 people she hung out with, but she didn't really interact with much of us anyway. So, and she didn't really share her art with people, whereas even though I can honestly say she was an infinitely better artist than I was, she didn't really share it. And so I was kind of the artist, where if someone wanted a goofy drawing, I'm like, oh, let me do it for you. So, so it was fun. And let's see, what color are we switching out to? We are 3832, raspberry medium. Alright. The only thing I feel sadly for is that I don't know if she can watch this video, because she said she wanted it to be a surprise. So she may not be able to watch these videos until they're all done. Huh. So, but anyway, she, that's my train of thought. I do that all the time. I am one of those people that does get my DNA all over my needle points, so if you find that unpleasant, I'm very sorry. So sorry. But yeah, she came in midway through the semester, and I didn't like her because she was a better artist, and people knew she was a better artist, so I was like foiled again, because this had happened to me in middle school too with my best friend in middle school, ironically, who I also didn't like when I first met her. I have a pattern. So anyway, she was very shy, and she very bravely, honestly, I think it's quite brave, she approached me first, because I had my group of friends, and I just don't think it really occurred to me to approach her, especially because I didn't like her. She was a better artist, so there. But she approached me. We were in sort of a mini semester where we were just taking little bonus classes they offered, and she was saying oh, you draw, I draw, let me see your art. And she commended my art, and I oohed and awed over her, because her artwork was amazing, still amazing. And I think she mentioned something about doing a comic once, and I mentioned something about doing a comic once, I don't know, and anyway, we came up with the idea. I don't know who came up with it ultimately. Maybe it was just minds thinking alike, but we decided we would do a comic together. So we came up with just this mishmash of things that we enjoyed at the time, and it ended up being a comic about demon pirates in space, and it was amazing. I love it. We're still so in love with the characters we came up with. Just deep parental affection for these hoodlum characters we made, and we had such a fun time doing it. And we'd have one main comic book or an art book, and we would just pass it back and forth. We didn't really plan anything, but things just kind of morphed on their own, and it was such a joy to work on together. I'm trying to make sure you can actually see stuff. So yeah, we had a lovely time together, and shenanigans. Got it. So we ended up bonding over that, and it's been a friendship that's lasted the ages. We've had a few bumps here and there, but I think that's what also makes our friendship so special. And I think that's what makes a lot of friendships so special in marriages too, and where you have to work through the problems. And there have been a few times where we've maybe hurt each other's feelings, and we talk through it, and apologies are made, and forgiveness is granted, and it's very rewarding to have a friendship like this. So she means a lot to me. I'm just, like I said, I'm sorry that she doesn't get to necessarily enjoy these videos maybe. So, but high school was a good experience in general. We had amazing teachers for our sophomore year, and then sophomore year we were called freshmores because you came in your sophomore year. Sophomore year we had basically high school classes, and then our junior and senior year you were essentially at the college, taking college classes with college students, and it was so great. I graduated with my associate's degree before I actually got my high school diploma, and everything, like all my credits transferred from that to my undergraduate. I went to Flagler and St. Augustine, another really beautiful, fantastic college. Another really great experience. And from there I came back with a bachelor's degree in psychology that you can't do anything with, heads up. And my family has been with Publix essentially for years. My mom worked with Publix when we came back from England into Panama City, Florida. She got a job at Publix in the bakery, moved up as a bakery manager. They had such a great 401k plan that she was able to retire very early. She retired in her 50s, and was able to just spend time with my father. They're a lovely couple. I love them to death. And my sister works at Publix, bakery manager. I also worked in the bakery for a time. I was heading that bakery manager path. Probably not if any of my former managers are watching. They're like, ha, no. So I worked as a packer for a while and got a little bit into mixing and baking, but I really wanted to be a cake decorator, and I finally got over to the cake decorator side, and that was an adventure. I always joke with my clients about how because they'll want to know like just my history too sometimes, and so I'll share being a cake decorator, and I'll joke that I got tired of arguing with brides about the shade of pink, and that's what led to me going to graduate school. But that's not true, actually. The brides were really honestly a lot of fun. Most of the brides were happy to be there. I really can't think of any difficult brides that I had encountered. Excuse me. And I would actually say that the people I had the biggest problem with were maybe the parents. I had a hard time with parents. I remember very distinctly there was a parent who came in, and with Publix it's difficult because you're working for a chain, so there's certain rules that you're really supposed to abide by, but you don't always abide by them. So for example, we might abide by this idea of if there's a cake decoration, you're supposed to stick with the decoration as it was created. You don't make that much in the way of deviations. And one of our clerks had taken a cake order for a woman and they asked for it to be this Batman cake, but on the 3-tier birthday cake style. And I was excited to do it because I had a really great idea in my head, and so, but the Batman cake itself is actually just supposed to be like a double layer sheet cake, and that's it. So, but I was excited. It was something fun and new to do, and so I created this whole thing, and I was so proud, so excited. I had it coming where, like, as the Batman toy thing is coming out of this cave, I had it coming off the cupcake at the top tier, and it was great. I was really no, not the cupcake. It was because the cupcake was the problem. It was the little 5-inch cake. So I had them kind of coming off, and it was great. I was really excited, really proud, and the family showed up to pick it up, and I, as the boy's there, he's a cute little kid. I was like, "Are you excited to see your cake?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so I brought the cake over, and I let him see, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, it's great." He's so excited, and I'm excited. And then the mom's like, "Where's the cupcake?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I completely forgot a cupcake. Let me get you a cupcake." And instead of, I get her perspective because it was missing a piece of the cake, because I got so excited at the overall picture that I forgot about there's supposed to be like a cupcake that goes on it. So I can respect her perspective of there's a piece missing. So at the same time, though, and instead of just letting me get this cupcake and add it on and just be done with it, because it's such a small minor piece, she ended up complaining anyway, and so she got, I think, essentially the cost of a jumbo cupcake and the toy and a few even extra bucks just off the cake, additionally, because we'd forgotten this element, or I had forgotten this element. And I think it was just very frustrating. That was one of those kind of negative experiences in my mind. I also remember there was a lady one time who commented on how, if I would go to college, I wouldn't have to be working in retail, and it's kind of a weird experience because I don't know if you guys can be able to see this. You won't. Sorry, I'll have to fidget this where you guys can't see. But yeah, it was such a strange thing. I think sometimes we forget that retail workers are people too, and I do the same thing. Honestly, I can't. I don't want to act like I never sometimes forget they're people too. I try not to, but it happens. If I'm having a bad day, I might not be the most pleasant with the cashier, and I try never to be rude, but I might be more focused on, like, I just want to get my stuff and get out of here. Please don't talk to me. Although secretly, the cashier might also be secretly relieved that I'm not talking to them. So, but I think in all honesty, we do sometimes forget that, and I sometimes forget that too. That these are people, and it's not going to hurt us to, just ask them how they're doing and how things are going for them, and just try to be a little pleasant, because it is a hard job. Working in retail is hard. People can be really rude, and it's a stressful job in the first place. It's very, sometimes it's very all over the place, and it the hours can be hard, and it can be such a, for the people who work in it, they can create such a positive experience for someone, but at the same time, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Some people work in retail because they do have a passion for customer service. Some people work in retail because maybe that's all they can do right now, and maybe life circumstances have happened in such a way that that's what they have to do, and but you never know the history of the person who's been working in retail. Like, I had a college degree, and yet here's someone being quite rude. Plenty of people have college degrees that work in retail. I don't know, just silly and odd the way people act in certain situations. So you're not where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be back here. Shame on you, Sherry. But yeah, I think it's just such an interesting place of work, and you can have great positive experiences, and you can have really awful negative experiences, and I think at the end of the day, what's probably most important is that we all just remember, like, we don't know what's going on in the other person's life. I remember when my father had gone to the hospital. I think it was New Year's. Oh, I'm done with this page. When my father had gone to the hospital, it was New Year's. My mother was very stressed out. This was years and years ago, and he'd gone in with pancreatitis, and it was very shocking for the whole family. It happened out of nowhere, and it was just boom, and that's it. And he's there. So we're worried about him, and we can't really see him as easily because we have to work. And I remember this woman had, like, my mother was very, very short. There was a customer, because I was at the bakery to say hi to her before I went to my work as a cashier at the time. And I can't remember what it was, but she had snipped at one of her associates, and she was a manager at the time. And the associates understood she had lovely, lovely people working with her at the time. And so the associates, they know what's going on. They know Dad's in the hospital. They know that we are stressed out and upset, and it had just happened. And this woman had looked to me and was like, she shouldn't talk to her people like that. And I was like, well, I agree, but but again, like, we don't know what's going on in people's lives all the time. And so I think sometimes we want to try and be considerate of that. And sometimes people are just jerks. Like, let's just call it like it is. No, say la vie, I guess. 3743. So, but I think that'll be fine. That's a good link. DNA. But retail was an interesting experience, though. And it did eventually, like, my aggravation with retail did eventually lead me to exploring a graduate degree, which, again, another wonderful experience. I've been really blessed with just a lot of fantastic experiences. I mean, again, there's always ups and downs, but I feel like even the downs that I have, when I look back, I can see so much growth from those down experiences, those times when things were maybe really, really hard or emotionally challenging. And I can look back on them with a lot of appreciation for maybe what I learned and how they kind of helped to shape me as a person today. And as a clinician, especially as a clinician. So, but I'm on to a new batch of things, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this film up here, and I will see y'all later.